If you like this video, make sure to visit our Vimeo page and follow us to get the latest update.
Okay, so this is the course curriculum which has been published. Okay, so we start off with the master data. Master data has like 4 important things from the PP perspective: material master, bill of materials, routing, and production version. And then we move on to the planning. I think looks like a lot of the agenda looks like you asked for more from the planning perspective. So we covered the various planning, the demand management, and how to manage the demand, and how the demand basically converts into production, and all those things we will see. And then these are all the ways and means of running MRPs. And the key thing about MRP is that MRP runs on its own. We don't have to do anything. I mean, technically, we do not have to do any configuration for a very minimal configuration for MRP. It purely depends on the master data. So based on the master data, the MRP will be run. Key is to how to read the MRP results. It's a bit tricky from SAP perspective to read the MRP results. Once you get used to it, you'll be comfortable. But we look at all these are evaluation and all those things, how to read the MRP results. As I said, MRP on its own runs in the background. We are going to schedule a job and it's going to run. And then we are going to look at the various goods movement in PP, like because even during inventory management, we looked at the movement types and all those things. So what are the different movements which happen from PP? Because there are 2 important movements. One is a goods issue, and another is a goods receipt. Goods issue, you issue components to a production order, and goods receipt, after you finish the production, you receive the goods into the stock, which is the production order. And then we'll quickly have an overview of the difference between repetitive and discrete, and then you can kind of figure out that your industry in which you're working on, whether it's a repetitive or discrete. Or if you already know, then we'll go in a bit of a detail overview of what is discrete and what is this thing, and then quick insight into the various integration with this module. So the WM anyway we have seen. So we'll quickly look at SD, MM, and FI. So this is the agenda which has been planned, rather the curriculum which has been planned for PP.
Okay.
So now let's go to the materials, and let's start with what I will do is I'll quickly go through the material ones, and then we'll get on to the system. So today what I'm going to do is look at the material master plays a once you come to materials management process, materials management not so much, PP, production planning, and the SD, sales and distribution, material master plays a very important role.
Okay,
so not so much from the materials management, but see, that's the strange part. Generally, the whole material master configuration and the ownership always lies with the materials management module. Everybody says that it's better, but from the control perspective of the process, from the materials management, it's very limited. Only some purchasing view. Technically, you have to create a purchasing view. Even if you don't enter any data, also you can do the complete process.
Okay.
Right. So, but in the production planning, there are 4 MRP views, work scheduling view, and all those things. So, which play a very important role in the process. Okay. So I'll try and cover the material master today.
Okay.
As the first part. Let's quickly browse through this thing so that you get some overview, and then we'll get onto the system.
Sure.
So production planning, master data. So we'll have to quickly go through this disclaimer and give 2 seconds, the standard one, but okay. So these are the 4 important master data from the production planning perspective: material master, bill of material, routing, production version. Now, before we proceed, what is your exposure to PP module in your present role? Have you been working on that in one form or other, either technical or functional? Any exposure so far from the PP perspective?
Yes, I mean, I have a hands-on on both the functional as well as technical side a little bit.
Okay.
But again, I want to clear my fundamentals from start to end. I mean, it's always in non-structured way. That's why that's what the aim was for the training, to have it in the structured manner and to understand it in proper way.
Okay.
Yeah, in bits and pieces, I have hands-on on both PP, WM. Yeah.
Fine. So you're familiar with the basic terminologies and all those things in PP?
Yes, yes.
Fine. That's good enough. Okay, so let's start with the material master. So quickly, from the material master, as you would be aware, there are different levels at which a materials data in a material master is maintained in the form of views. Correct? You have a basic. So technically, a way you understand that SAP has its own way of explaining, but from understanding perspective, relate each view to a department. Okay, so sales view, which basically belongs to the sales department. The production, purchasing view belongs to the purchasing department. From the mapping to the functional this thing. But way SAP does it, so it has mapped each department into basically views in SAP in the material master. So it's a central repository. All the details for all the processes like the sales, the production, the materials management, quality, accounting is stored in a single place, correct, with one material number. That is the core of material master in SAP, or for that matter, any ERP. Some ERP will have store less data. SAP has, if you open up the screen, each screen will have 50 to 60 fields, right? Out of which any organization will use only 8 to 10 fields generally. What it is meant for. Rest of the fields which will be generally used for items which is not there, used for a different purpose. So not more than 8 to 10 fields you use in each of this thing, what it is actually meant for. So that is what we are talking about, the client level. So when you say client level, the basic data view is at the client level. So what does that mean? Is that irrespective of whichever plant, because one material can be maintained for multiple plants, right? Multiple plants, multiple sales organizations, and multiple divisions and distribution channels. So, whereas the client level data is not relevant to any particular organization. Which are those? Those are the basic data 1 and basic data 2. The reason is that when you create a material number, what do you have in the basic data view? You have the material number, material description, the material group, and a few other fields. Now, irrespective of whichever plant this material gets extended to, the material number will not change. The material description will not change, right? So those are the fields which are basically at the basic data view, which SAP calls it at the client level. Okay. So from the this is applicable for any master data in SAP. Yeah. You take it the vendor master or customer master, that is what it is. And then when you have something called as plant level. So what does plant level mean? Plant level means that the same material can have a different set of master data for different plants. For example, a material can have one lot size for one plant, and rather I would right now generalize it, is that a material number can one way of planning in one plant can have a totally different way of planning in a different plant. Though the material is the same, material number is the same. So those data, what we are talking about is the data retention level. So when we say that client level, we generally talk about client level, that is nothing but the data retention level is at the client level, which means that whatever data is there in the client, in the basic data view, is applicable for the material across in the complete client, irrespective of the plant it is being used in. Any data at the plant level means that data is relevant only for that plant. It can be the same also. It can be the same for different plants, but you have an option of having a different set of data for the same material at a different plant. Similarly with the storage location, and similarly with the accounting valuation. When they say valuation level, as I said, they say if from the accounting view for finance, plant is called as a valuation area internally by SAP. So these are the 3-4 different levels at which data are maintained in SAP for the material master.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you create a material type plays a very, very important role in the material master creation and the processes. Say, for example, if you try to create a standard SAP, if you take a standard SAP raw material, it will never show you a sales view. Now, if you take a FERT, which is the material type for a finished good, it will never show a purchasing view. Reason is that idea of a raw material is that you will never sell a raw material. Correct? You take the basic, I don't know what is your basic raw material. If you take that, imagine that will say, for example, let me give a classic example of foundry. Right? What is the basic requirement of foundry? You need sand, so a certain type of sand, right? Now, you will never sell sand. Correct? You will make something out of the sand and sell
Correct.
it.
Correct.
Right? So that's the reason standard SAP doesn't give a sales view for a raw material. Similarly, when you do a finished product, you manufacture it in-house. You will never purchase a finished good. You are going to get all the raw material and semi-finished good and then assemble or manufacture the finished good and sell it. So you are never directly going to purchase a finished good. So that is why for a finished good, you will never see a purchasing view.
Okay.
Okay. And what SAP gives is something is a semi-finished good, HALB, which is that you will have both sales as well as purchasing, which means that you buy it sometimes, you manufacture it sometimes, which means that HALB, which is a semi-finished good, allows all kinds of activities for a particular item. So view is nothing but the activity, what you are going to do that. So three major, I think there are 14 to 15 standard SAP types. The three major material types are raw material is one, semi-finished good, and the third, and the fourth one is something called as Hawa, which is nothing but the trading goods. If you are into trading, where you simply purchase from X and sell it to Y, in that case, there will be no manufacturing views, which is the work scheduling.
Okay.
Right. So those are the four important types, and that is what is going to basically that is what is going to control the whole process. What a particular material type you has to undergo.
Okay.
So that is the material type control. We'll go to what is required for PP. And the similar function is there for industry sector, which generally you don't use. We always go by the material type. So you can copy, change, and all those things, whichever is required.
Yeah.
Now, views available in SAP PP Material Master: accounting and costing, quality, production information, material planning data. Of course, sales data, purchase data is generally not available. So sales is important, right? Because you are going to sell the finished good.
Right.
So purchase, I'm not sure why they have put, but purchase is not available. Generally, for a finished good, for a PP purchase, as I said, only in case of semi-finished good, HALB purchase data will be available. But that is standard SAP. Now you can, depending on your requirement, you can basically copy that material type and allow, disallow whatever views you want based on your requirement. Right. So if you look at your system, you can see that I am sure there will be some custom material types, or I don't know whether, see, ROH is standard SAP raw material, HALB is standard SAP semi-finished good, FERT is finished goods, and HAWA, HAWA is the trading goods.
Okay.
But if you look at, I'm sure most of the implementations we will, because, and another thing what the material type also does is it controls the field selection. Say, for example, a raw material can have certain fields as mandatory and optional, whereas a semi-finished good can have a different set of fields mandatory and optional. That configuration is available in Material Master configuration. So generally, if that business rule is required, then what we do is we copy the existing material types and do all those things. And this thing. So you can check in the system later whether you are using the standard ones or the your industry specific ones.
Okay.
No, the role of Material Master in production planning is that these are the four views which are very important. Accounting anyway is required. From the planning perspective, See, there are in production, there are two things in SAP. One is planning and another is execution. Planning is your MRP and all those things, demand management. Execution is your creation of your order, releasing of your order, goods issue, goods receipt, that is your order execution. So from a planning perspective, these are required. MRP1, MRP2, MRP3, and MRP4 views, and the work scheduling view is required for execution. If you have to create a production order for a particular material, then the work scheduling view has to be available for the material master. Without that, SAP will not allow you to create a production order.
Okay.
And if you want to do planning, then you want to do is you have to have MRP1, MRP2 at the minimum.
Yeah, yeah.
And MRP3 and MRP4 for any complicated or you want to use the advanced functionalities of MRP, you can use.
Okay.
This is what we are talking about. Material master contains several views which are maintained with the respective department. Materials. So how is it in your organization? Is one MDM team available to create, or is one individual departments create?
I didn't get your first point, but yes, we have the departments also.
MDM, right? For a master data management.
Oh, master data management.
MDM is the master data management team. It's not a tool or a thing. Generally, what happens is SAP now has come up with a master data management tool also. So, but there'll be a team, maybe generally a central team, which is responsible for creating all. Everybody whoever wants to create a material master, they requested to that material master MDM team, and they create the material, because that centralized control is generally required. Otherwise, if it is given at the user levels, then users are going to create materials as they're required, and they will not be completely aware of what is required, what is not required, and you get into all to duplicates and all those things.
Okay, I'm not sure about MDM team any specific, but yes, we have different departments, and through authorization roles assigned to the users, only certain users can create the material.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Right. So the three transactions, this is our initial screen. You will have a material number, you will have an industry sector, and the material type. So then the material numbers can be internally numbered or externally numbered. So that's again a configuration related to the material type. Through a material type, you can say that a particular material SAP at the time of sale automatically allocates a number, or while creating the material number itself, somebody has to externally give the number.
Okay. Yeah.
So transactions, you might be aware, MM01 is create, MM02 is change, and MM03 is display. Right? That's the standard SAP transaction. 01, 02, 03. For most of the transactions, it will be 01, 02. 01 is always create, 02 is change, and 03 is display.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, these are the views what we are talking about. So once you create go and create a material master, then it's depending on the configuration. These are what views are allowed. That's what views are allowed like this is basically depends on the material type configuration. In the configuration you allow, okay, these are the views which are allowed for this particular material type. So generally, if you see all the say for example, even though it is a raw material, there are scenarios where you are going to sell, because if you have to provide spares, correct? So a raw material is also, you have to sell it as a spare. Then you cannot stop this. You have to have the sales view, correct? Because without the sales view, you cannot sell.
Yes.
In that case, the most ideal is to create that material as a semi-finished good, going by standard definition of SAP. But generally what happens is people, because the name is semi-finished good, they get confused during the implementation. They go and allow the sales view to the raw material only. From the best business practice perspective, that's not the right way, but it does the job.
Okay.
Right. So ideally, if you are selling a raw material also as a spare and you have to sell it, obviously you cannot create a new number. You need to work with the same number. Yeah. So two options are allow the sales view to the raw material, or create it as a semi-finished good. So I would always prefer creating it as a semi-finished good.
Okay.
Going by standard SAP definition.
Got it.
Okay, so now we have this. So as I said, MM02 is change material master, and MM03. When you create a material master, how many plants do you have?
We have 5,000 and then 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
Okay, 5 plants you have. So
Yeah.
now the thing here is, if one material is used in a different multiple plants, you have to extend the material to all the 5 plants. I mean, even in that case, you use
Yes.
MM01 only.
Yeah.
Right? You don't use MM02. So SAP's this thing is, you create a material master, which means that nothing changes in the basic data view.
Yeah. So not all materials are extended to all 5 plants.
Okay.
Some major plant is our 1,000, and then not all materials are extended to all plants, but some materials are extended to
Correct.
multiple plants.
Okay. So even in that case, so you have to use the MM01 and extend those materials.
Yes,
Then
that's
either you
right.
can retain the same data, or you can change the data
Yes.
at the plant level.
Yeah.
Right? So for example, what I was saying was, in plant 1000, if you, that is your mother plant, then plant 2000, when you're extending the material master, you can always change some parameters in the MRP1 view, which is not going to affect the plant 1 details.
Correct. Correct.
So that is what we mean by data at plant level.
Yes. Yes.
And there's some SAP gives a functionality of mass changes, which you can say, for example, you have 1000 materials, and for one of the fields, you want to change one particular value of one particular value of a field. You can choose based on some parameters, and system can do a mass change. That is MM60.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. MRP views. I'll see. What is your understanding of MRP? What is MRP?
We run MRP cycles to update the stocks and the demands, plannings. So it runs every night or so. Yeah, and updates the stock in the system.
Okay, fine. See, MRP, material requirement planning, is not a concept which SAP has come up. Right?
Okay.
MRP as a concept is out there in the whole supply chain cycle for ages.
Yeah.
Right? Only thing, SAP has given some tool to run MRPs, right? Material requirement planning. The basic purpose of MRP. What is the purpose of output of a MRP? Only 3 things. What, when, how many. Okay. What is required? What or which material is required? When is it required? Date, delivery date. How much is it required? Predominantly, this is the 3 important things. A lot of byproducts come out of that. But which or when, how many, and when. So these are the 3 important things a output of a MRP will give you. So MRP, when you run the MRP, all it will look at it in detail. When you run the MRP, it does these things. First, it looks at the demand. Suppose you are running a MRP for let's say you schedule the MRP. So what does it do in the backend? It, depending on MRP controller or whatever, it filters all the materials for which the MRP has to be run. Correct? And it takes one material and see what is the demand for this particular finished product. Now, once it finds the demand, it goes and sees what is the stock available for this particular demand. Let's say it found out basically demand as 1000. One way or the other, it found out that for this particular SKU number, there's a demand of 1000 numbers. Now it looks at this stock. Stock, there is around, let's say 1100 straight away. There's no output of MRP because it is there. For that particular material, system is not going to give any procurement proposal. because stock is already there. Now let's take a scenario where the stock is demand is 1,000, stock is 600 only. Then it will give you a procurement proposal for 400, which is for then that what is that material, how many is 400, and it says when it also next it finds that when is this required, demand, when has this to be delivered to the customer, it finds out a date. Then it is going to say when.
Right.
Before that, you have to this thing. See, bottom line, $1 billion systems are spent or built to basically all the complicated. What is the final objective of that? To ensure that customer gets that delivery on time. If you look at it, yes, leave all the complicated algorithms and all those things. What is this MRP doing, or what is this? MRP is a base. Now, if you see, there are so many other planning tools, extended this thing, and you had this APO, the constraints. But bottom line is what are we trying to do is basically ensure that customer gets the delivery on time. That is the only final objective.
Yeah.
Right. So now, so these are the views. So what are we doing? We are building a lot of rules, business rules as to in the MRP views, what of rules as to how a material has to be planned. Right?
Yes.
So how material needs to be planned is what is the data which we are going to enter in the MRP views. As I said, it's less of configuration and MRP and more of master data. Material master technically controls how the MRP runs, or how you would like to how you would like the system to run the MRP. So very important. So 4 views. So how the material needs to be planned, how the material will be purchased or produced, which means that whether it is internally manufactured or whether it has to externally procured. What is the material lead time information? How long does it generally take? Suppose if I want to manufacture or if I have to get it from an outside supplier, generally what is the average lead time? Okay, and then you will have if there are any safety stocks requirement, and what is the planning strategy of production make to order in make to stock. See, in a planning strategy world, I'm sure you would have heard MTO and MTS, right?
MDO4, yes.
Yeah, there's MTO and MTS.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Not much.
This is the common terminology used. MTO, if you see the last one, make to order and make to stock. These are the 2 extremes in planning. Made to stock, made to order, or what we call as push and pull.
Okay, okay.
Right? Made to stock is irrespective of the demand. You are going to manufacture. You have a high level demand. It's not that you have a confirmed order. You are not waiting for a confirmed order to start manufacturing. You have a demand. So whichever way you found that next 3 months or next 6 months, I have to manufacture 5,000 of each one of the finished product. Your sales gave an input or some other tool, whatever you got basically this input. Now, whether there is a confirmed order or not, you are going to manufacture that 5,000 and keep it in stock and you push it into the market. Like typically consumer goods. Right? Consumer goods, they are not going to wait for the customer to place an order for toothpaste or whatever goods. They're going to simply, they know somehow they figure out a demand. Okay, from past 6 months is what I'm selling. Next 6 months I'll do this, and they push it into the stores. That is make to stock, which means that they are not waiting for the final customer order to come to start manufacturing. That is, you manufacture, keep it into the stock, and push it to the customer. Right? So whether it sells or not, only time will tell.
Yeah. Okay.
Make to order MTS is that you wait for an order to come to start your manufacturing. Like say, for example, high-end, like expensive, like machineries and engineer to order. Like, for example, there are a lot of customer-specific things you have to do. Those kind of things, you wait for an order to come.
Yeah.
Only then you manufacture. No, these are the 2 extremes in a planning situation. I mean, this is not anything specific to SAP. This is all, again, something is part of a planning strategy which has been out there for a while. SAP just gives tools to manage this.
Yeah,
right? So these are the two extremes, made to stock and made to order. Between these two, there are multiple other strategies. What you do is you plan till the final assembly. Like suppose you have 6 or 7 different assemblies. You take it to the last level of assembly. Only when you get the order, you do the finishing final assembly. So like that, there are a lot of other strategies. But made to stock to made to order are the two extremes of in a planning scenario.
Okay.
Now, what do we have in work scheduling? That is about the MRP. So we have the work scheduling. As I said, there are two important views from production planning. From the planning perspective, it is MRP1, MRP2, MRP3, and MRP4. From the production perspective, which is the execution perspective, it is work scheduling view. So who is the responsible person for the production of this material? What is the lead time of the production process? Product is batch maintained or not? This is available in the storage location view also and the purchasing view also. So this is two important things are person. There are a lot of other things also we'll see. The important things are two different things in the views in the work scheduling.
Okay.
So from MRP 1, 2, 3, 4 and work scheduling is are mandatory if you have to basically do planning and execution from the production planning module in SAP.
Okay.
Now, here we are giving you just an overview of what does MRP want. See, MRP, there are 3 different types of MRP here. One is MRP, another is MPS, another is consumption-based planning. So we used to call it as deterministic planning and undeterministic planning. So in MRP, in this process of planning, only against a demand you are going to plan. If there is a demand, system is going to plan. If there is no demand, system is not going to plan. Okay. Now, MPS is advanced process of planning. Advanced process of planning, where it's a master production schedule, wherein we put in some additional rules. I'll show it when I do this thing on top of MRP. It's MRP only. Where we do it, put some additional rules, firming zone and all those things. We put that rules in MPS, master production schedule. And the third one is consumption-based planning. Here, consumption-based planning happens based on the past consumption. System is going to forecast the future.
Okay.
Okay, there will be some mathematical algorithm. So which means that irrespective of the demand, it doesn't look at the demand. It doesn't look at the demand. It looks at the past consumption, how it has consumed this particular component, and it is going to forecast the future. Now, finished goods, we don't use consumption-based planning. It's only the B class, C class components which we use for consumption planning. Especially what happens is that when you're talking about the components, 70% chances are that a component is, at least I would not say 70%, at least 30 to 40% of the components will be used commonly across the finished goods.
Okay. Some
nuts, screws, and this thing which will be, I don't know what your components are. So in those cases, 30 to 40% will be covered. So in that case, you don't have to wait for those orders to come. Because these are what SAP recommends is to use it for B class and C class items, which doesn't have high value. So in those cases, because it is not of high value, then what happens? You allow the system to analyze the past consumption, and it will forecast the future. So when you do a consumption-based planning, there is no link to the demand, and consumption-based planning is part of MM module, not part of PP module.
Okay.
So MRP also finally it runs MRP and does the same thing what MRP does. But then MRP, but in the material master, you flag it as consumption-based plan.
Okay.
Right. So finally, you run the MRP for that also. For all these 3, you run the MRP. But
Okay.
it's basically these three things, you set it up in the material master. So MRP, when it runs, it basically works according, whether it's MRP, whether it's a MPS, and whether it's a consumption planning, it is going to throw the output as per the MRP procedure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, from the consumption-based planning, SAP gives this reorder point planning, which means that you can set a reorder point. If the, since it is not linked to the demand, if a particular, say, for example, you say that if the stock falls below 100, then system has to generate a proposal, procurement proposal. So you can set a reorder point. You basically do a time phase planning. Time phase planning is nothing but, say, for example, you have a requirement wherein every month you do something called as a planning calendar, and wherein every month, irrespective of the demand, you are asking the vendor to supply some 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000. Then you do a time phase planning. Okay, this is predominantly used in JIT and all those things where you have, because if you are doing a time phase planning, then you should be very, very clear about the requirement. That I will require it every month, every week. Yes. Otherwise, so what you are doing is you are doing a time phase planning for 2 months or 3 months and giving the schedule to the vendor.
Yeah.
Saying that every week you supply this. So it's kind of a commitment.
Right.
So only when you're sure about this, you can do a time phase planning. And then there's the forecast based planning, where the past consumption, you do the forecast. So these are the MRP, MPS, and consumption based planning are the three different ways of how you can do a planning. Finally, you run a MRP for all this, but you set it up in the material master this way.
Okay.
See, in PP, you will come across a lot of new terminologies.
Yes.
Lot of new terminologies, and it's not like very easy to consume. It will take some time.
Yeah, these many things are new. Yeah.
So these are all, I think we'll have to hear it maybe once or twice and read something. So I mean, you will encounter. That's why I asked, are you familiar with the terminologies in the beginning? A lot of new terminologies are going to come in PP.
Okay.
As we go for planned independent requirements, schedule margin keys, these and all those things.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So these are all the MRP views. Then I will basically go to the system so that I won't confuse you with too many terminologies. We'll cover all these things as we go to the system.
Okay.
You need to see something in the system before you go here. Okay, so where did we stop? We stopped at backflash. Now this is now we are going to the I can go through this. What we have done is basically we have given some key parameters in each of this thing. I can go through it in theory and then go to the system, or I can directly go to the system and explain the theory. Which will be suitable for you?
Either way is fine. Whichever you prefer is okay.
I will go to the system. That way will be more comfortable because I'll be talking new terminologies. And it might get a bit confusing.
Let's see it in system then.
Yeah. Okay, so MM01. I have one more session. MM01. So this is the industry sector, what I was talking about. So let's go with the standard mechanical SAPs. People are chewing the standard itself. Where is mechanical? Engineering. Yeah, this is SAP standard. No, not even. No, I think there's somebody has renamed it. It is SAP. From SAP perspective, it's only going to be mechanical. Okay, fine. So material type, let's say, these are all the material types. Now the challenge is to find out which is the original one. See, so many raw materials. Okay, let's quickly, because I don't want to start with something which somebody else is doing it because we don't know what we'll encounter. I hope nobody would have changed the settings for the material type. So logistics general. Master basic settings. Material types. Define attributes. Let's see. PRT. Let's try SAP. Okay, thank God it's there. Let's say I'll add something so that we know STD standard. Then we'll say ROH. So I don't know why they changed the description. Material. It's a standard. One more is HALP. These are the three we are going to use.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. Since I've come here, I'll just show you. So if you double click on it, this is where you allow what view is allowed and what is not allowed.
Okay. Okay. So if we uncheck some one of these,
Yes, it will not show up there.
that won't. Okay.
Yeah, it will not show up there. If you uncheck any one of them, it will not show up there. Say, for example, if you see, let's see, if you go to what were we going to use, let's say FELT, F-E-L-T. That is, when from production perspective, we'll always use FELT. Somebody has checked in all. So if I go to, which is wrong, MM01, and we say FELT, F-E-L-T. Finished good, let's say finished good standard. Where did we do finish? Did I save it? Oh, I have not saved it. Finished products, STD. Yeah. This is my what we did just now, mechanical engineering. No. Now, if you see, purchasing is also here, correct?
Yes.
Ideally, it should not be there. So if I go here and FELT, I don't want purchasing. I want storage. I don't want forecasting. Let's say then warehouse management, let it be there. Sales has to be there. Stock has to be there. Okay, that's all I need. Now, if I go back, I don't know whether I have to completely go back. Let's try. Yeah. /NMM01. See, your purchasing is gone.
Yes.
So that is what we always say, that material type controls which views are allowed for a particular material.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so let's start. So what we are going to do is we are going to do the basic. Anyway, we are not going to do sales, so I'm not going to activate the sales, unnecessary maintenance of data. So eventually, if you are basically creating a finished product, sales view is mandatory because you are going to sell it. Without a sales view, you cannot sell it.
Yeah.
So we are going to concentrate on the production. So warehouse management for right now we don't need. Accounting will have that. So let's see. This is a new system. 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. Plan 3,000. Let's get one storage location for 3,000. There's one thing with this, it doesn't give the search.
Mhm.
The best thing is do this. T001W, right? For
Yeah.
W is for plant, or T01L, I think, is storage
I
location.
think W is for plant.
Yeah, L is storage location. Okay, there's so many. I don't want one with a warehouse. Everything is a warehouse. 0999. Okay, 0099. Okay. So we are right. See, we are now basic data 1 and 2, which we are saying that this is at the client level.
Yeah.
PP demo. So the two important fields here are the basic unit of measure, which is basic unit of measure is a measure in which you are going to manage your inventory. That is the definition of my basic unit of measure. Each, we'll go with each. And then material group, whichever you are going to, whatever you have created, so whichever it matches to. You can assign a material group. This material group doesn't have any control function, but is a very good field for reporting. Wonderful. Neetu Ambani, Mukesh Ambani. Okay, so let's pick up one of standard SAP one. I will try. Okay, let's go with this box. Standard SAP, and here you have a lot of other fields you want to enter: gross weight, net weight, and all those things. But basic to fields which is at the basic data view. So which is at the client level. So if you see, even if you extend it to a different material, different plant, this will not change. Description of the material will not change. Then the base unit of measure will not change. The material group will not change.
Okay.
So this is at the client level. Now, basic data view, if you're using document management and all those things is required. Generally, basic data views, all the fields are used for some other purpose which SAP is not giving you. So you have particular requirement to enter a new field for classification. SAP is not giving you. So we generally what we do is we kind of start using these fields. Most as the most common. And then we'll straight away jump to MRP1 view, which is of interest to us.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing, let's see what was it from the material perspective. Let's be in sync with that. So first thing we are talking about is the MRP1 view is the MRP type. Most important. Your MRP type defines your planning procedure. Okay. Now M to M4 is basically your MPS type of planning, master production scheduling.
Okay.
Okay, M0 to M4. ND. So there are a lot of instances where, suppose two reasons why ND is used. You still want to create the MRP views to be available. You want to use some of the fields in MRP, but still you don't want to make it relevant to MRP. Then what you do is you put it as ND, which means that no planning. Even though MRP, when it runs, it looks at the first thing when you run the MRP, the first thing SAP looks at is this particular field, MRP type, whether it is relevant for planning or not relevant for planning. If it sees ND, it stops right away. It doesn't plan that material, which means that you have told the system that do not plan.
Okay.
Okay. And then MR from P1 to this one, PD is your actual MRP, and R1 to all the down is your consumption based planning.
Okay.
Okay, that is how generally you can classify. AP external planning is that you are sending the data to the external system. All this data to the external system, some other system is planning for you.
Okay.
Okay, that is what is meant. So these are the various types of plannings you have. So as I said, key is going to be the first thing the system looks at when you are when the system tries to do the planning is the MRP type. Whether it is because first it has to see whether it's relevant for planning or not, because then right away it can stop so that you reduce so much of material from the planning, because the MRP you are going, the system is going to run thousands or hundreds of thousands of material. When you run the MRP, it is going to plan. Right. So there's no point in doing all the planning and then coming back and looking to see whether it is relevant for planning or not. Right. So SAP first looks at this. Now, the most common we use is, if you can look at your system right now, the most common is going to be PD.
Okay.
90% of the material is going to have PD, which is your planning based on requirement.
Okay. So I should check in table rather than
Yeah, you can go to MARC.
Yeah, 1 second. So in MARC, the field will be
DISMM.
DISMM. Okay. MRP type. Okay. Yeah, I see. Some are blank also.
Which means that is not relevant for planning.
Okay. And if I filter just MRP type, then I see the most common are M0, ND, blank, PD, M1, VB. These 6.
VV is your reorder point planning. VV is your forecast based planning, and M1 is your MPS fixing type.
M1 is
MPS, master production schedule.
okay, right. And PD, ND, M0.
M0 is also a type of master production schedule.
Yeah.
2 different types.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So off late, people are not using MPS is MRP with some constraints, introducing some constraints and fixing some firming zone. Right now, a lot more advanced tools have coming to do all those things. So only the older implementations are using MPS.
Okay, because I kept it open. Maybe it's those materials are pretty old. I just saw one plant 1000, but there are many old materials also in
right.
there.
Because MPS is not like a kind of a stringent kind of this thing, putting some constraints and newer, because there are a lot more new tools which have come in to do the MPS and all those things. Better tools have come in. So people are not basically, see what happens is that MRP, the basic concept or the downside of MRP is that one thing which MRP misses is the capacity. It always assumes that you have unlimited capacity.
Okay.
That's one of the downside of MRP. Nowhere in MRP you saw capacity, even though SAP gives you some functionality. So then what happens over a period of time, what has happened is that a lot of constraints have come into planning over a period of time with all the globalization and all those things, which means that transportation is a constraint, capacity is a constraint. So now what MRP is doing is you just, you manufacturing it, okay, you take this material, you manufacture so much, deliver. That's why it's not considering any other constraint.
Okay.
Because in a real world, there's so many other constraints. Correct. So
Yeah.
now with APO, what you heard of APO, right? APO is
Yes,
basically
I
advanced PP the module which SAP has now that has become part of S4, where you take the MRP results and apply all the constraints. I have a constraint in transportation. I have a constraint in capacity, all the constraints, and then you can realistically come up with a date when I can actually deliver it. So
Okay.
I'll not confuse you more on that. But reason why I told was because MPS is a system where you basically freeze. Say, for example, you fix a zone. Say, for example, you plan one plan to another. Say, for example, you run MRP on 15th, correct? And system came up with basically some proposals. Now, the situation changes. Next week, when you run the MRP, the demand would have changed. Correct. Now, what should the system do? Should it cancel the order? Or should it plan? So, what generally is done is the MPS items you are looking for high value items. MPS is used. Wherein, if our high value items are long lead time items. Say, for example, you are importing some material. Now, when you place an order, you will take 3 months to get it. Now, after 15 days, all of a sudden you found that the demand is not there. What should the system do? For those kind of material, you say, okay, if the change has happened within the 15 days of placing the order or 15 days of the requirement, do not cancel the order, go ahead and procure it. So those kind of high value items and long lead items, MPS is used. So what I'll do is I'll first cover the MRP. MPS is complicated, so we'll come to the MPS later.
Okay.
Let's cover the basic MRP first for you, and then you'll get a feel, and then you can look at the MPS. Okay. The first point is basically this thing. Now, PD, let's go with PD. PD is determined. One thing you'll have to look at here is that depending on what field you use, other fields become mandatory.
Okay.
Okay. So right now, MRP controller is mandatory. By definition, what is MRP control? Who is a MRP controller? MRP controller, one person or a set of people in the planning department who are responsible for planning. I mean, without a system, there are going to be a set of people, even with SAP or without SAP, planning is happening for ages, and it is going to happen also. Correct? Even without a system also. So one way or the other, in an Excel sheet or something, the planning will keep on happening. So by definition, MRP controller in SAP is the person or a set of people who is responsible for planning for this material, and the person who is going to make the decision of make or buy, whether this particular material has to be purchased outside or manufactured in-house. That's the definition, core definition of SAP. Now it is used in whichever this thing, and it's a very important. So this one field is mandatory.
Okay.
Now you come to the lot size. What is a lot size? Is that suppose let's see what are the options. EX is the most common lot size. What does that mean? If the demand is 100, right? Demand is 100. Now, lot size EX is used, which is called lot to lot. Create a proposal only for 100. Don't create 110, 120.
Okay.
Okay. That is the definition of a lot size. Oh shit. That is the problem. Okay. Let's go back to the main screen. Okay. Okay. It all. Yeah, okay. That is now, if you see here, now when I go to the next screen, it is not asking me to enter the minimum lot size. Because here what it's saying is whatever is the requirement, procure the quantity to the same lot. Now, suppose if I change the MRP time. Let's say I go to the MRP time. And say a reorder point or a fixed lot. I think there is one fixed lot. Where is that? Safety stock order types, time frames, MRP, safety stock planning. I don't know where it has vanished. There's one called fixed lot. Fictional planning. Fine. So in that case, what happens is that you will be able to enter the minimum lot size. So suppose, even if you say lot for lot quantity, and you can say that my minimum lot size, suppose my demand is 100. However, your vendor always gives you in 200. It doesn't use his minimum quantity, minimum order quantity for this material is 200. Okay, then you can enter a minimum order of 200.
Okay.
Even though the demand is 100. So system is going to create a proposal for 200.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, when you go to the fixed cost, fixed lot size, right? So irrespective of the demand, always order a lot size of 100 or 1000 or whatever, if that kind of a requirement is there, because this is particularly good for C-class items, low value items. Right? So you don't have to, because remember, whenever an output of MRP comes, this means that there is a job involved with the materials management. Or whoever is procuring it, or somebody has to create a purchase requisition, create a purchase requisition, purchase order, then the approvals, and then finally. So in those cases where the materials are of lower quantity, quantity with a lower cost, those kind of cases you can basically do the fixed lots. Now, again, even though you set a minimum lot size of 200, then even though the demand is 1000, 2000, I can still say maximum lot size of 1000 only. Even though the requirement is for 2000, if I put a maximum lot of size of 1000, system will only give you lot size of 1000.
All right.
And then you can similarly with the maximum stock level, if you're asking the system that you replenish only up to the maximum, look at the stock. If the stock is basically 1000, suppose if the maximum stock level is 1000, if the requirement is, if the stock is 800, the requirement is 2000, you order only 200. Because I said the maximum stock level is 1000.
Okay.
Okay. So that's, so as I was keeping, as I kept on saying, master data plays a very big role in MRP.
Okay.
So now let's go back to that this thing. So we're talking about the MRP controller we covered, and then what are they saying? Planning time frames will not cover right now. Lot size we use the time because that is required with the time frames. So we'll look at it later. Lot size will be used at time of the purchase or production quantity. Like what is the quantity? If the what against the demand, what should be the lot size? Right? That's what lot size, and we went through that other fields also. Now this is the minimum lot size, maximum lot size, and all those things we looked at it. So that is the function of a lot size. So if you scroll down, you see the assembly scraps and all those things, right? So here, what happens is that, suppose you always know that when you're using this material to do some kind of a assembly, there is always a scrap percentage of 5%. Okay, so you can say, suppose if I say 5% scrap, which means that if the requirement for this particular material during the MRP run is 100, system is going to plan for 105.
Okay.
Because you said this is if you know that a particular material always there is a scrap percentage, then you can add this percentage here. To that extent, system will plan more.
Okay.
Now we go to the next one. So this is what they're talking about: static lot size, period lot size, optimum lot size. Like static lot size is EX.
Okay.
Period lot size is based on the different periods, reorder point, and all those things. So depending on that, you do the fixed order quantity, fixing and splitting, and fixed lot size. Period wise, period lot size is equal to posting period, plan for a particular period, plan for a planning calendar, period. So these are all the daily lot size. These are all the period based planning. And then the optimum is what we are talking about right now. Put in the minimum lot size, maximum lot size, fixed lot size. All this additional constraint becomes your optimum lot size planning. Okay. The most common, I don't know if you want to check right now, the most what is the lot size in your system you're using right now? And the field would be DISLS.
DISLS.
EX is the most, I'm sure there will be a lot of EXs.
The most common lot size that I see is there are multiple. Some are blank, but the others are like WB.
WB, weekly lot size. Okay.
Weekly lot size. Then Z4, Z2, Z3.
Oh, those are all your custom
these
lot
are
sizes.
customs. Okay. Then we have EX.
Yeah. So Z2, Z4 are all your custom lot sizes.
Okay. Then we have EX. EX is for lot order quantity.
Correct.
Then ZL is again, I think,
custom.
Yeah. Then TB is daily lot size.
TB is daily lot size, weekly lot size, and so basically yours is predominantly period lot sizes.
Okay.
So then whatever is your daily, what required for on a daily basis. So which means that you are running the MRP daily.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Then you have weekly lot size.
Okay. Then we have more of ZX, ZY, Z8. Then one is MB.
MB is your monthly, I think. Where is MB? Yeah, monthly lot size.
And then FX.
FX is your fixed order quantity.
Okay.
What we saw, right? Fixed lot size, fixed order quantity is always.
Yeah. Then we have HB.
Oh, that is forecast based. HB is, where is HB?
Okay, yeah, replenish to maximum stock level.
Replenish to maximum stock level.
Yeah, these are the most common.
Right. So you are using a combination of fixed lot size and consumption based planning. So you are using all the three, which is we saw. You are using the static lot size, which is EX, period lot size, which is weekly and monthly and daily. And then you are using the optimum lot size, which is replenished up to the maximum stock or fixed order. So all the three different lot sizing procedures you are using.
And then there are many Z.
Many Z, I mean, that's very specific to you, and I'm sure they would have done something else for that. Some reason they would have changed some configuration or some requirement, they would have done the lot size.
Yeah. Okay.
Fine. So these are the important fields in the MRP 1 view.
Okay.
So now let's go to the next slide. So here they are explaining about the lot sizing procedure, classified, static lot size, procurement quantities calculated based on the information maintained in the material master, period lot size, system groups the requirement that are in the weekly, monthly, optimum lot size is setup lot size, independent cost, lot of other things. EX lot size, fixed lot size, HP, TB, and they're just giving the examples.
So for around 10,000 materials, 11,000 materials have Z lot size.
Okay. So how many materials have your this thing like PD?
PD?
PD as the MRP type. Those are the number of materials which are being planned every time you are planning.
MRP type.
MRP type PD. Or you can basically filter. I mean, rather than doing that, go to this thing and find out how many materials do not have what is that? Blank. How many materials have blank and ending?
Plant and ending?
blank value and ND.
Oh,
ND.
blank ND.
Which is not, ND is not relevant for planning.
Okay.
No
So
planning.
for PD we have for PD, first I'm telling you, is 74,000 materials
Okay.
for PD, and for blank and ND is what's for blank and ND around 17,000.
17, correct?
Yeah,
So
17,000.
which means that those number of materials are not being planned in MRP.
Yeah, but there are total around if we leave these blank, out of, okay, one second. It didn't take into account. So out of 150,000, 17,000 are not for planning.
Okay. 150,000. Okay. That's
Yeah.
not bad. Which means that almost 80% are being planned, 90% are being planned. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Now we'll come to the MRP 2 view.
Okay.
Okay. The first thing what you see is here, what is the procurement type? Whether this material will be manufactured in-house or whether it will be externally procured, whether there is no procurement at all, procurement is blank, you never procure, or
Yeah.
both procurement types allowed.
We do both in-house and external procurement.
Correct. So which means that, no, but it all depends. No, see, for the raw, for semi-finished goods, you might do it. But for the finished goods, you might not be doing both.
No, I mean, we don't do both. We have E and F categories.
E and F. So
I do not. E and F, I am sure we have.
X.
But I'm not sure about X. Where can I check that?
Yeah, same MARC and
okay, same.
I'll tell you the table.
Procurement type.
BESKZ.
Okay. So for X, we X we just have 300 materials.
Which means that you are very clearly restricting, saying that this is either procured internally or externally. Very clearly restricted.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So around 15,000 are E.
Okay. Those might be the finished goods. So if you see the material type, they'll be the finished goods.
And mostly are external. So those are around 100,000.
Yeah, which means that those are either raw materials or semi-finished goods.
Okay.
You see, what the problem is that you have to join two tables to find out MARA and MARC. You will not find the material type. See, if you know some link, do a query or something, you can, that is how you basically decide that, okay, then you link the material type to the procurement type. With a simple ABAP query, then you can relate it. Okay, this is material type, so this is what is being externally procured. So here you see, what is the impact of it? The impact is big. Is that when you say, for example, external procurement, see, okay, before that, one step back, is that what is the output of MRP? Have you seen the output of MRP?
When we execute the
after the MRP,
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Forgot the transaction. What's the transaction?
MD04.
Yes. Oh, MD04 we see all, we check all the time.
Okay,
But
fine.
we can also manually run MRP, right? From some of the transactions.
MD01, MDBT.
Yeah.
MDBT.
So those also, I have seen those
Correct.
transactions.
So now what?
MD04 we check all the time.
Okay. See.
Sometimes we check stock also. Yeah.
See, what is MD04? MD04 is the output of the MRP, the most critical screen for a MRP planner. So when the MRP runs, output of a, if there is a requirement, if there is a shortage of stock, what does it do? System gives a procurement proposal. SAP, you keep on talking about a procurement proposal. In the general world, whenever you are talking of procurement, you always think that it is procured externally, correct? Whereas in SAP's terminology, procurement is internal or external. Whether even if it is manufactured internal, SAP calls it as a procurement. So under procurement, it calls internal and external. So if you are going to basically say the procurement type is F, the output of a MRP is always a purchase requisition. Whereas if you do it as a E, the output of a MRP is always a planned order. So if you put X, the output of a MRP is always a planned order. I'll tell you why. If it is basically the procurement type is F, you are telling the system that I am only going to procure it from outside. Which means that it creates a purchase requisition, you convert the purchase requisition to the purchase order. When you say it as E, right, you are telling the system that this particular material is manufactured in-house only always. Which means that the planned order will be converted into a production order. Because a purchase requisition cannot be converted to a production order. Because you told the system that I'm going to procure externally. Okay. So whereas if when the system does a planned order, you can convert it to a production order. That is, if you are doing the procurement type as E. Whereas if you do a procurement type of X, the output of a MRP is still a planned order, because that is when a planner decides whether this particular planned order has to be a make or buy decision, which means that a planned order can be converted to a purchase requisition or as well as a production order. Okay, that is the impact of deciding the procurement. The output, the procurement proposal depends on the procurement type you put in the material master. Okay. So if you put E or X, if you put X, it will always be a planned order. Now, suppose if you are basically doing you decide to procure, what happens? First, you convert a planned order to a purchase requisition, then purchase requisition to a purchase order. There's additional work. So, if you are very clear that you always are going to procure it from outside, then you rather make it F. So, the output of the MRP is always a purchase requisition. All you need to do is convert a purchase requisition to the purchase order. Only if it is X, then whoever is the planner is going to decide whether it is going to be a planned order or a production order. Sorry, a purchase requisition. A planned order is just a placeholder in SAP, so that you can basically either convert it to a planned order or convert it to a purchase requisition and convert it to a purchase order also. And you can also convert partial quantity of a planned order to a production order. Say, for example, you have some constraints in the production in your in-house capacity. So let's say 100 is the requirement. So 50 can become a purchase requisition, 50 can become a purchase order. Sorry, a production order. So there are advantages and disadvantages of creating a planned order. But if you're 100% sure that whether it is or whether you manufacture in-house or this thing, then it makes sense to exactly the way you have done in the system. So they are very clear that this will never be, there will never be a make or buy decision. We call it as a make or buy decision always. Make is always produce in-house, buy is always procure outside. That's a common terminology used, make or buy. So if you're very sure then you rather put it that way so that you can reduce one step.
Okay.
That is the impact of choosing the right procurement. So depending on the requirement, you choose the right kind of procurement type. So this has an impact on the output of the MRP. Then you have this special procurement type. So see, procurement is one more procurement type. You have other than make in-house or this thing, then you can do a stock transfer also, right? From one plant to another plant. Within your, suppose you have 5 plants. I think it was idle for a long time, just timed out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now here in the procurement type, you can do a stock transfer. You can do a subcontracting. Right? So stock transfer from an alternate plant. So you directly don't procure it, either manufacture in-house or you don't procure outside. You are going to procure it from the other plant. That also is possible. Then consignment.
Yeah.
The consignment stock, I don't know if you are using or not. Consignment stock is basically a vendor comes and keeps the stock in your premises as it's a VMI, right? Vendor management. In a general world, it is called as VMI, vendor management.
Yes, I know we have VMI implemented, but not sure.
Whether at the planning itself you are planning. So see, this is right at the planning level itself, you are telling that this is a procurement type. If you want to do that, you can do that. Even without doing this at the material master, you can still do the VMI process also.
Okay.
That's not an issue. It is at the planning level itself, because you don't do all these things at the planning level because the situation is so dynamic. Because then when during the planning, within 2-3 days the situation changes and then you need to undo a lot of things. So rather you do it after the MRP results come. But say for example, the most common thing is you are always doing a stock transfer, because there are situations where they use something called as a mother plant, right? All the components comes to a mother plant. From the mother plant, it gets distributed to all the other plants. That's a very common process followed, just to reduce the transportation or getting the bulk buying ability. Multiple reasons they do it. In those cases, you basically put this special procurement type as most commonly used is stock transfer. So you can check it this particular field if you're using any special procurement this thing in your system. So since you have 5 plants, I'm assuming that there will be some, I think 40 is the stock transfer, I think 20 or 40. Yeah, 40.
Okay.
If you want to put that condition, you can put the condition.
Okay.
Okay. And then the other, I think we'll cover these 3 fields.
Okay.
I think there's too much of information. But unfortunately, that's how PP is.
Yeah. It's MRP.
Yeah. These are the scheduling parameters. Now, without this, putting this, system will always assume that there is 0 lead time.
Okay.
Now, today requirement, I need a component today. See, there are 2 things, right? when is the component required, and when is the when can the delivery happen? Two different things. Just because you need this material on a particular day doesn't mean that you can get it, whether it is a vendor or whether it is in-house. You can't get it because you have other things going on. Right? So these fields play a very, very important role. One is in-house production, which means that if your procurement type is E, okay, so procurement type is E, then you have to say, to manufacture this product, I need 10 days. So if, for example, the stock is 0 for this material, you run a MRP today, system will give a procurement proposal that the material can be ready on 14th only.
Okay.
Now you beg, borrow, steal, whatever you need to do, ensure that you meet the customer delivery date.
Okay.
So in-house production time is used, the lead time required for production. If the stock is 0 today, how much time will it take for me to manufacture this?
Got it.
Similarly, planned delivery time is if the procurement type is F, system will look at this field for the lead time.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is the actual lead time. Now, there are other two lead times also SAP gives. GR processing time. After you receive either from the production, this is common for both E and F. After you receive the goods from the vendor, you are going to take some time to do the inspection, to clear the goods, right? Now, if that is considerable amount, let's say moment a good is either manufactured in-house or delivered from the external, this GR processing time is the time it takes for that particular product SKU to be that can be made to put it in the unrestricted use stock and ready for use. Because lead time is the lead time required only for the manufacturing or for the vendor. Now, after it comes to your premises, you will need some time to process it till the time you make it available for production. Inspection, document verification, or whatever it is. If that is a very considerable time, then you put that. Let's say you take 2 days, which means that system will tell you now that if you order you put today, by the time it will be ready for to be used, it will be 10 plus 2, 12. So it will be available on 16th for you. That's the realistic time SAP is saying that when you out of the, when it creates a purchase requisition or a planned order, it says that this material will be available on 16th. So how does the system determine when the material can be made available? Based on these lead times.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So they have not covered it. After that, I think they have covered. I saw that. Yeah, here. In-house production. Scheduling margin key, I'll cover it next class.
Yes.
There's a lot of funda behind it.
Yes. Okay.
So MRP one view. So if it, just to summarize for you, MRP one view determines how the planning should be done. What are the different strategies you want? How do you want the system to plan?
Okay.
Okay, that is what MRP one view does. MRP 2 is the actual execution part.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? How much time does it take? If the stock is 0 on the day, how much time does it take for the material to be either manufactured or delivered by the vendor?
Right.
Depending on the procurement. Those are the most important things you need to understand. And the other thing is the scheduling margin key. That's one more float and all those things. We'll cover it tomorrow. Safety stock and all those things, we'll cover it in the next class.
Okay. All right.
So next class is Thursday, right?
Yes.
Thursday, 7 p.m. Yeah. If you get a chance, just, I mean, I don't know, it's a one-day time. I don't know if you get a chance. Just go through this session once, because a lot of new terminologies and a lot of new information.
Right. I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to visit our Vimeo page and follow for more upcoming videos.